Sometimes I think people underestimate the effectiveness of sheer stupidity. Not when it comes to the real world. We've already seen more than enough evidence over the last few years that stupid people in large enough numbers can accomplish anything they set their mind to. So I don't think it's underestimated out in the public sphere at all. But here, on Warhammer 2, sheer stupidity can still be your friend, even amongst the enlightened and high IQ individuals of the RTS community. Got a doozy of a free-for-all battle for you nerds today, and the memes shall flow like spice. The memes must flow. It's a sunny afternoon at the Steps of Isha. It's the Dwarfs, Vampire Counts, Empire, and Bretonnia fight to the death in this ancient arena, and take a look at this blessed abomination that the Frenchmen are about to unleash on the world. It's a horde of gold chevron trebuchets. Roses are red, holy water is measured in liters. Trebuchets use counterweights to launch 90-kilogram projectiles over 300 meters. Catapults hate him. Now you might be thinking, that's terrible. How is he supposed to defend all that? You're right, it is terrible. But there you go again, underestimating the effectiveness of psychological warfare. Only takes one glimpse to send shivers down the spine of any potential attacker. Who would dare assault such perfection? Looks like the Empire might be doing so soon. Under their heretical pseudonym Archaon, Randomized is controlling the Empire with a lot of demigraphs, Blazing Sun Knights, Stubborn Bulls, and the Black Lions Hellblaster War Wagon, and he's even got some Vanguard shenanigans at the start of the match. Pistoliers, sandwiched between Miners and Rangers, cut down to half strength immediately. Game over, man. Game over, you're not going to come back from that one. For the Duke and his Dwarf compatriots, Rangers lead the way. Heavy Vanguard strat with Throwing Axe and Bugman's variants. Forward deployed and establishing a little bit of a firing line for that inevitable undead assault. Mornfang Mercenaries, Hammerers, Grumbling Guard, and High King Thorgrim Grudgebearer, with some gyrocopters providing close air support. And across the way, here comes Vlad and the dreaded double Krell. Oh lord, they coming. They've even got some chevrons. I don't know why they're suddenly twins, but there are two of them now, and things are starting to get out of hand. And Unstoppable is going for that age-old strat of highly focused mobility. A lot of Vargeist overhead, a lot of speed. They can pick and choose their engagements, and as long as you don't let them get shot, well, you can do a lot of work with them in a free-for-all scenario, because you can go wherever, do whatever. I think mobility is by far the most important trait your army can have in a free-for-all scenario. But of course, there are so many ways to play it. Even the Dwarfs camping with artillery, or in this case, the Bretonnians with a bunch of Blessed Field Trebuchets, can sit back and cause all sorts of carnage from downtown. So we'll see how that works out for them. Vargeist going right in, trying to set up a Wind of Death, and it looks like it's going to miss. Yep, definitely dodged by the Duke and the Dwarfs. That's a little bit painful. It's an expensive spell to miss like that. Really didn't get any value out of it at all. And the Vargeists are overcommitting to the two Rangers in the center, while leaving the rest of the Throwing Axes kind of unmolested. So that'll be painful. Will be a lot of damage value going the way of the Duke and his Throwing Axes right at the start. And on the other side, the Empire are going right up the center. Now, they could attack any number of avenues here. There are two main causeways leading to the Bretonnians, and if he just fully commits with all his cav and all the speed he has on the field, I think he'd be fine. Yeah, there's King Lewin. Yeah, there are some Grail Knights there, but he has the Royal Altorkifites leading the charge. I'd argue that's probably not the unit you want in the Vanguard right now, because there's so much artillery with gold chevrons. It means they have better accuracy, better fire rate. They're getting taken to Pound Town. They're down to half HP right at the start, and that's an expensive unit that you really want to have to counter those Grail Knights and King Lewin. So, moving behind cover, Empire is thinking about attacking, but haven't fully committed yet, and they're being destroyed by that overwhelming firepower from the Blessed Field Trebuchets over on that side. Here, Vargeist floating overhead. They dealt with the first 2 or 3 Rangers, but I think the Michael skills are beginning to fall behind for a second here as he focuses on other parts of the battlefield. Krell and Vlad leading the charge into the Vanguard wing closer towards the center of the map. They're taking out the gyrocopters, which is a good idea, but gotta split these Vargeists, gotta make sure they're attacking different targets, because if you just sit there with their low armor, the focus fire from these Bugman's Rangers and the Throwing Axes will just eviscerate you, and it's a big reason why Duke has 7,100 points right now, and Unstoppable is at 3,500. Those Vargeists are really the key to the Vampire Count's victory, and he can Invocation to heck many of them back up to full HP, but he's going to have to invest a lot of resources in that now, and he's already cast a Wind of Death, so that Winds of Magic pool might be a struggle for him as we move closer towards the mid and late stages of this battle. And the Empire, what are you doing, my friends? No! Randomized, no! What he's doing right now is literally the equivalent of charging a trench in World War I, making it all the way across the beaten zone, standing above them, and then saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to go back to cover now, and running all the way back across the field and taking cover back there in your original trench. Why would you run all the way across and fight them and then run all the way back? You're just exposing yourself to way more artillery fire during that time, and his Royal Altar of Griffites are already dead, and Archaon, 800 points, Pajad, 4,000. That's the difference, man. So he's deciding, okay, I don't want to take that fight. I want to charge into the back of the Dwarfs and the Vampire counts and come over here, maybe third party. But if you wanted to do that, you had to do that at the start of the game, or at least sit back and not be in range of all those Blessed Field Trebuchets, which are just destroying his army right now. The gold chevron Trebs, the equivalent of medieval howitzers, are just taking that Imperial army to Pound Town. And now we've got a legit third-party action coming in. So, while the Dwarfs are fully committed, all their units are exposed, the Black Lions ROR can come in from the flank and just start pooping on kids left, right, and center. Firing down the length of their formation, Knights of the Stubborn Bull charging in from behind with their greatswords. Their AP will be very effective in this kind of engagement. And the Krells are about to get sandwiched from both sides by heavy cavalry. Mornfang's coming in from one side, Stubborn Bull Greatsword Cav coming in from the other. Bugman's Rangers throwing in with their throwing axes, Althar's Rangers rather, causing some serious havoc in and amongst the light cav of the Empire, but Dwarfs are being overwhelmed over on their Vanguard wing, and they'll have to rely on Thorgrim Grudgebearer and the more elite of their army to stay alive. Vargheists are still around, they're flying off in the background, but you can see most of them down to about 1/5 to 1/8 of their original health pools. They'll need some Invocation of Nahax to get back into fighting effectiveness. Marcus Wolfhart firing in on the Krells, trying to take them out, and they are retreating alongside some Skeleton Spearmen. And it looks like everyone is beginning to spread out and realize that the real threat, the real final raid boss is Pajad with his stupid-ass Blessed Field Trebuchet army that has a bunch of gold chevrons. So, at the moment, he's at 5,500. The Bretonnians are with their artillery batteries coming in. Archaon, randomized, is at 3,000. Unstoppable is at 7,200. And Duke has a commanding lead at almost 13,000 because he's fought two armies so far, really. He's fought in the Empire, decent chunk of them, and killed off a huge swath of the undead force as well. Those Vargheists just feed points, man. They're each 1,000 by themselves, and they're really easy to kill. Oh, we've got some tumbling spires and pillars in the center of the map. 40k urban warfare confirmed, boys. And a three-front war is about to open up. The wrath of Unstoppable, the Duke, and Archaon coming the way of King Luin Leoncoeur and his Grail Knights, who will have to put in some serious overtime to try to defend their backline, because their entire army is backline. It's just peasant mob and Trebs. So Knights of the Blazing Sun trying desperately to push through. This is honestly what the Empire should have done from the start, but kept a lot of their forces behind cover on the approach, kept the Royal Altar of Griffites in a safe location, and then once those front ranks of peasant mob are routed, send them in, overwhelm them. But I must say that the psychological warfare from Pajad so far has been impeccable. He terrified the forces of the Empire away from his location simply through sheer firepower and balls of brass. Gotta love it, man. So Vampire counts, not a lot of infantry left, but Vlad is in good health, of course. He always is, always has tons of regen going his way, and he's supported by the two Mohawked Krells, the undead champions of Khorne, Hellblaster volley guns opening fire into the Bretonnian artillery right now. But first, I think you want to take out the Grail Knights, and that might have been what he was shooting at. Just missed some shots and hit the artillery instead. Knights under Stubborn Bull going right up the center, trying to clear a path for the rest of the Imperial Undead and Dwarfen assault, but quickly sliced down by the Knights of King Luin Leoncoeur. Mornfang using these opportunities to charge in from the rear, get rid of the peasant mob, and get into that squishy center, the ooey gooey front of this Bretonnian army. But the Blessed Field Trebuchets are still firing in, and they're still getting kills. Mornfangs dropping like bad habits, but they're in there, and now they gotta contend with Grail Knights and King Luin, who has his Sword of Couronne active. He's popping that right now, debuffing everything, and I don't think that Mournfang will actually do very well because their stats, while not terrible by any means, are not Grail Knight level, and they don't have that physical resistance, and I mean, obviously their armor and melee defense will be lowered substantially by King Lewin's debuff, so these Mournfang are being destroyed by some of the best Cav Hunters in the game, and that's a painful loss for the Dawi. If this temporary truce had been thought out just a teeny bit better, they could have had the Mournfang, the Vorgeist, the Stubborn Bulls, and the rest of the Cav all attack from multiple sides at once. Instead, they kind of went in piecemeal, and one unit of Grail Knights and King Lewin the Encore by themselves have been able to successfully defend all of their artillery, which are still mostly online and causing all kinds of carnage in and amongst the invasion coming in from the front. So Pajad is playing out of his mind with the Grail Knights anyway. Obviously, those attacks could have been a little bit better coordinated from the other three, but it was kind of a natural alliance that arose out of necessity, so they didn't have tons of time to plan out how they would approach this assault. And it's definitely working in favor of Bretonnia right now, who is in third place, but only by a shred. Probably about to be in second, because the Vampire Count's army, besides, I mean, not counting Vlad and the two Krells, it's mostly dead. His Vargeist attack did not work well and kind of ran into the same problem that they ran into at the start. Not quite enough support, and they had already taken so much damage at that point that when they went into the Blessed Field Trebuchets, it wasn't very difficult for the Grail Knights and King Lewin to finish them off for good. Vlad down to half HP, which I'm a bit surprised about. I think he got hit by some Trebuchet volleys on the way in. Another Wind of Death. Interesting idea. Typically not how you want to use that spell, simply because you need tightly packed infantry for it to work in a lot of models, and artillery crews simply don't fall into that category, so I wouldn't recommend using it in that manner, but a decent idea if you're not incredibly experienced with the spell. It could have, theoretically, if you look at how the spell functions, I mean, you'd think, like, yeah, that should be able to kill 4 or 5 artillery crews, no problem at all. In practice, doesn't really work that way, but still got them off and allowed Krell and Vlad to push through. So, over on this side, the main attack from the Dwarfs is being stymied by the Hellblaster Volley Gun ROR, the Black Lions Regiment of Renown, and those artillery volleys are just devastating to the densely packed Ranger infantry, who have taken dozens of casualties on the way, and you can see the trail of broken and battered corpses left in their wake. Hellblaster Volley Gun moving backwards, the War Wagon moving into a safer location to fire in, and the rest of Bugman's Rangers moving up as well. Regrowth going down on the Black Lions. Not sure that's entirely worth it, simply because they've used the majority of their ammunition already, and they shouldn't be in melee or getting focus fired, so healing them not incredibly important at this stage in the battle. Still, the Blessed Field Trebuchets continue to reap a terrible toll in and amongst the Dwarf ranks. Grumbling Guard taking the brunt of it now, and that was right down the length of their formation too, so that is when artillery is at its most devastating. Thorgrim Grudgebearer engaging the remnants of the Grail Knights. It looks like they're about to crumble out. Throwing axe volleys might finally put them in the ground for good. Foe Seeker, Sword of Corone popped on King Lewin, and Marcus Wolfhart doesn't really want to be here. That's kind of just bullying, honestly. He's going to get swirled, he's going to get shoved in a locker. It's going to be a terrible fight for your boy, and he is routing, but it looks like the Dwarfs might be able to push them off, and it's still kind of a tenuous alliance. Obviously, Empire was firing into the Dwarfs, so they're still fighting each other, but they're putting the majority of their resources towards destroying the evil, the unstoppable Pajad. I say that, the Vampire Count's coming back to deal with Dwarf Infantry. I don't actually know what would give you more points. It feels like killing artillery crews doesn't give as many points as you would expect it to. And I don't know how chevrons work in free-for-alls either. If I make my Grail Knights have gold chevrons and they're more expensive, will they give me more points? I don't know. But all I know is they are destroying all this Dawi infantry, and still they have not been shut down. I don't even know how it's possible. We're 12 minutes into this game. Pajad is fighting 3 armies. He's lost all of his forces that could actually defend his artillery crews, and yet still they are all firing. And it is still looking like a creeping barrage straight out of Verdun or Passchendaele back in the 1910s. What is going on this game? In terms of points, Duke is at almost 17,000 now, so he still has a somewhat commanding lead. Pajad is in second with almost 13,000. Unstoppable is pushing 12,000. And Archaon has pushed up to almost 11,000. So it's a close game right now. And all armies are in tatters. And all kinds of broken, battered, and bloodied corpses in the center of the map, dotting the once pristine location that is the Steps of Isha. But it's been brutal for everybody, and just kill those artillery crews. Get rid of them, please. It's entertaining, but it's actually starting to, like, slightly annoy me that they're still online. Why are they still around? King Lewin getting netted in place by Marcus Wolfhart, and a charge, a valiant sprint right up the center will be met with even more artillery volleys and more exploded war wagons. Over on this side, Krell and Vlad fighting to the death against a bunch of hammers who will get insane value beating up on some really expensive single entities. But I still think that Vlad and his buddies might be able to win this one. Problem is that the progenitor vampire of the Blood Karstein, I mean, that's not too far off, Blood Karstein vampires, is he's crumbling out now. And it looks like High King Thorgrim Grudgebear has rallied. He's charging forward. Yeah, Vlad just died. That's a big loss. And Dwarfs are getting some serious points here, but they just brought the High King low too. A lot of famous legendary lords, a lot of iconic ones being slain, and the Black Axe of Krell will bite deep, and looks like they'll have enough wave clear to deal with the Hammerers too. Question is, how much HP will the Krells have afterwards? Twin brothers are beasting right now, and they are Unstoppable's only chance at winning this game. But he is a decent amount of points behind at this point. I think Pajad is the only other player who has a chance at winning this one. It's really going to come down to whoever is last man standing, and he certainly has a shot at that. King Lewin continuing to bully the crap out of Marcus Wolfhart, who has no more ammunition left, so ripperonis to him. Unstoppable and randomized, super close in terms of the points, but I think that the Duke is out of reach for them. They simply don't have enough forces left, unless they somehow, well, Marcus is routed, maybe Unstoppable, if the Krell somehow survive this coming engagement with King Lewin and the peasant horde. If he's last man standing, maybe he has a shot, but he's got to get a lot of points. Kill off all the artillery crews and kill off King Lewin. So I won't count out Unstoppable yet. I think the Empire doesn't have anything left at this point. They've got one war wagon that just blew up in the background. Only one remaining. Now it just routed. Yeah, Imperials are out of the fight. So it's down to a three-way war now. And I'm not going to lie. I really want to see the Krell twins carry this one. And maybe they can. They've got terror. They can easily, obviously, cut through infinite hordes of peasant mobs. Question is, can they defeat King Lewin in a duel and then have enough momentum afterwards to kill off all the artillery crews and whatever remains of the Dwarfs? Here they come. This is maybe going to decide the battle here. King Lewin is looking pretty healthy, and he's still regenning. The Krells aren't... Oh, they took some damage. They took some damage from those Blessed Field Trebuchets on the way in. Oh, Lord. And now with the Sword of Corone, lowering their defense to 21, he keeps getting hit. He has not gotten hit yet. This Krell's gonna die. That was not a good showing from that Krell at all, but big ups to the artillery for continuing to hit what are very small targets, what are usually quite difficult for them to kind of land attacks on. King Lewin went to town, and both Krells are out of the fight instantly. They're gone. They just both crumbled. Okay. I mean, I thought the Krells had a legitimate shot to kill King Lewin there at least. Their high weapon strength, their armor piercing, their good stats, but King Lewin just beasted it right there. And now the Hammers are into melee, and it's down to 2 players. Vampire counts and the Empire are fully out of it now. 14,500 for Pajad, 18,000 for the Dawi, and the Hammers rout off, and it looks like the Dwarfs are going to win by 70 points. That's insane. They won by 70 points. Pajad, if he lands one more attack with King Lewin on anything on that battlefield, he would have won that game. Incredibly entertaining free-for-all, and some awesome memes to boot. The Trebuchets almost won, which is hilarious. And, I mean, I'm actually very glad that Randomized Archaon did exactly what he did. Because I mean, realistically, an army like that shouldn't do that well if you've got that much mobility, but I don't blame him so much for not wanting to fully commit there. Obviously, he did the wrong thing, and it's a learning experience, but it was kind of funny. It kind of makes sense. Like, you're getting destroyed by the artillery, and you're like, it's like one of those sunk cost fallacies. Like, should I keep going? I've already been destroyed by the arty. Like, do I really want to close the rest of the way and try to kill him now, or do I just retreat, cut my losses, and say, okay? At that point, you have to commit, but I get why he did what he did. Just didn't have enough experience going up against some powerful artillery builds. And, yeah, I mean, the Empire got shish kebabbed. I mean, 0 damage value on your Royal Altar Graphites. That hurts. With that said, though, got some amazing work done with the War Wagon ROR. 3,600 damage value there. He played with that unit very well. Got some awesome kills on it. Really positioned them perfectly for most of the battle and got awesome flanking volleys in. But yeah, some really good play from Pajad with the units that he did have that had some mobility. The Grail Knights and King Aluin together were awesome at defending what should have been an impossible defense. You can't, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 Trebuchets. Defending that with just one single unit of Grail Knights is hilarious. As for the Dwarfs, Mournfang, and the Rangers all did fantastic. I mean, some of them got 1,500, upwards of 1,500, 2,000 damage value on them. And High King Thorgrim Grudgebearer also got some good attacks in too. So, hope you guys enjoyed that silly and hilarious free-for-all. Great job to all players. Really entertaining. And I'll see you all in the next one.